I'm Carole Leathem, and you're listening to a bonus episode of the Caretakers Journey podcast. I am your host, and I want to welcome you to day 17 of our 31-day Caretakers Resolve Challenge. Today is January 17th, 2025, and our resolve today deals with reconnecting with friends. So grab your Post-it note and write, I resolve to reconnect with friends to strengthen relationships that may have been neglected due to my caregiving. I don't know about you, but how many relationships have fallen by the wayside because our caretaking has taken over our life? I am a girl who is at the gym 5 mornings a week, Monday through Friday, at 6 a.m. with coffee in my hand. Now, in the summer, you'll find me standing out in the parking lot by my car, enjoying the quiet morning and watching the sun come up until the training time starts. In the winter, like we are now, I walk in, I head for a corner where I stand quietly, just kind of thinking and sipping my coffee until the workout starts. This morning, I was standing in my corner when I heard someone say my name out loud, grab me in a big bear hug from behind, sloshing my coffee onto the carpet. And I turned around and found a woman that I adore. I have not seen this woman in months, and she didn't know I went to this gym, and she was there for an introductory class to see if she was going to join. And as I walked in, she said to the trainer, "Hey, that looks like my friend Carole." And he said, "Well, it probably is your friend Carole because that's her name." And she came running over, and we spent the last few minutes right before the training started. She had already done a training earlier, and we spent the last few minutes before my session started catching up just quickly. And she told me over and over how much she had missed me. And I told her how much I had missed seeing her, talking to her. And then as she walked away, I was really regretting not trying harder to stay in touch. I was so thankful that she took the time to come running over and talk to me this morning. You know, on our caretaking journey, friendships are the first thing to suffer. When it gets messy, it gets chaotic, it gets overwhelming. Our ability changes. We don't have our availability changes. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like I just have this big black rain cloud following me around. And every time someone says something to me, I have such a mess going on. I don't feel like I have anything really positive to say. So what do you say when people ask you how you are? Which it's just a normal question that people ask. Hey, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. Well, I made a commitment 10 years ago that I was going to speak the truth when someone asked me that question. So more often than not right now, especially in these last few months, my answer is I am barely hanging in there. I'm not complaining. I'm telling the truth. Now, my caretaking is on steroids right now, and there are more days that I am exhausted and overwhelmed than there are days that I'm not. And so when someone asks me how I'm doing, I'm not being flippant. I'm being honest and sincere when I say, it's hard, I'm barely hanging on. And then I watch their response. And the response to my answer is to watch most people make an excuse and run away fast because they don't know what to say. Last week, I walked into a meeting at our church, and a woman that I consider a friend came walking over, gave me a big hug, said, "Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in forever. How are you doing?" Well, I gave her my honest answer. I am barely hanging on. It is so hard right now. She looked at me, didn't make eye contact, and said, "Oh, we'll talk before you leave tonight." And then she proceeded to avoid me for the rest of the night. It was a little heartbreaking, I have to admit, because I love this woman, but she could not deal with the chaos of my life right now. So, how do we reconnect with those friends? How do we deal with these friends who maybe don't understand what's going on? So, let me give you some pointers here. These are some things that I have learned over the last 10 years of intense caregiving. First, don't judge. When someone doesn't understand or when someone doesn't respond the way that we need them to respond, don't judge, not even in your mind. Why? Because unless someone has done intense caregiving, they have no idea what you're dealing with. And it changes. I mean, each caregiving is different. So, my friend who's dealing with a special needs child, and me who's dealing with mental health, and then my mom who's on hospice across the country, our journeys are different. So, don't judge, not even in our mind. Don't think this person should. Don't do it because unless they've done it, they have no idea what you're dealing with. So, don't judge. Second, don't take it personally, which is so hard because it feels personal, but it doesn't really have anything to do with you. It has everything to do with them. If somebody cannot deal with the truth or the hard journey that you're on, don't take it personally. There are plenty of people, and I have plenty of women in my life who do understand and who do step up and who are willing to say, I'm so sorry that this is happening. Because really, they can encourage, but there's really nothing that anyone can do to take the pressure and the stress off. So don't take it personally. Now, here's the opposite of what you probably are hearing me feel like you're hearing me say. You need to stay connected. This is capital SO, so important. Do you know why? There are over 55 million caregivers in the United States alone. And guess what? We all, each one of us, feels alone at some point. Do you know that I have yet to go anywhere. In the last month, I made it kind of a little, I would decided to do a little trial, a little test. So every time I go somewhere where there is a group of people, I start talking to people and I start asking them questions. What do I ask them? Well, I don't ask them if they're a caregiver, but guess what? If they are, it's going to come out. Again, new woman came into the gym. She was looking for a smiling face. I had a smiling face. She had a cup of coffee. I had a cup of coffee. We had a couple minutes before training started. It was a couple of weeks ago. We're standing there having a conversation. I asked her what she does. She told me what she does. She said, well, it's really hard because I have an autistic son. So blah, 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 blah. Guess what? I've seen her every day since. And this morning she came in and she looked great. And I said, hey, you look wonderful today. She goes, I got a full 8 hours straight of sleep. And I said, well, I was praying that you would get some sleep last night. It was actually on my mind. I hope that this woman would get some sleep last night because I know that she's been struggling. If we had not had these conversations, if we were not trying to connect, if we were standing there in our corners with our coffee and not talking, we would have missed the connection. And this is so important because at that moment, she doesn't feel alone. I don't feel alone. And we were encouraging each other. We need to make mental and physical space for people. We need to find ways to be available. Sometimes it's just opening our mouth and having a conversation at the gym for a quick moment. Sometimes I go to the grocery store and I start talking to somebody. I had a lady ask me if I could help her get something off a top shelf. So I did. And then we're standing in the aisle talking about making pot pie. She's making pot pie. I said, oh, I have a great recipe. And we're standing there having a conversation. And then out comes this whole story of how her husband has dementia. And when she makes pot pie, for some reason, it brings him back into clarity for a few short minutes. What a beautiful moment of connecting. But you have to make mental and physical space for old friends, for new friends, and for the friends that we haven't met yet. We need to find those ways to be available. Zoom coffee dates have become one of my favorite outings. I don't have to leave my house. I can grab my favorite coffee. I can come in here. I can sit down in a chair. I can open up my laptop. And in a few minutes, I can be online with a friend and we can be having coffee and catching up. It is the perfect outlet for me. You know, caretaking can take up so much of our time and energy, but we need that connection. Don't let relationships fade away. Don't isolate, initiate. So, what am I going to do? Well, as soon as I get off this recording, I'm going to text my friend that I saw at the gym this morning, and I'm going to say, hey, can we meet soon? It may be on Zoom, but I'm going to reconnect with her. Stop for a moment and think, who do you need to reconnect with? Initiate. Don't isolate, initiate. Thank you for joining me today. If you know a caretaker, share the show with them using the links in the show notes below. My resources for these resolves come from my book, Are You Ready to Find Joy When Life Gets Messy? And if you want to know more about how my caretaking journey started, the link to purchase my book is below. If you want an in-depth copy of the Caretakers 31-Day Resolve Challenge, join my email list, see the link below, and I'll let you know how to get it when it's available. As I close out the episode today, I want to pray for you. God, thank you so much for these caretakers who are listening faithfully to the show. God, you know that there are people in their lives that we, like me, who we've let these relationships kind of lapse and go by the wayside because things get so overwhelming and chaotic. And yet, God, reconnecting is so critical. Connection is the most important thing that we as caretakers need, because we cannot continue to pour and not find connection with other people. So God, I pray that each caretaker listening today will stop and think about, who do they need to reconnect with? Thank you so God, for this morning, for what a great reminder when this woman came over. And thank you that I'm going to reach out to her. I'm going to initiate and see if we can have a coffee date on Zoom and reconnect. God, thank you for walking before us. Thank you for walking beside us. And thank you for just loving and caring for us. We ask all this in your precious name. Amen. Let me bless you. May the Lord bless you and protect you. May the Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. May the Lord look with favor on you and give you peace. I will be back tomorrow for day 18. And until then, it's all about